But let's get an update from Simon Marks, our US correspondent, on the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Simon, good evening again. Any update?
Well, there are lots of updates here, and this shooting happened just over an hour and a half ago at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, which is not far from the city of Provo. And it's absolutely clear from the video that is appearing all over social media that Charlie Kirk was extremely gravely wounded by a single gunshot as he was addressing a crowd on the campus at the beginning of a tour that he's calling the Prove Me Wrong Tour. And the whole purpose of this tour is to engage in debate and discussion in the public square. And the talk that he was giving, the question that he was being asked at the time of the shooting, actually related to gun violence here in the United States. Charlie Kirk, an outspoken proponent of the Second Amendment and of the right to bear arms in the United States. And as he was clarifying what he'd been asked by a questioner, a single shot rings out, and you can see that Charlie Kirk is shot in the neck. There's a gruesome video on social media that demonstrates the extent of his injuries. He was immediately rushed to a local hospital where emergency surgery was carried out. The official word currently is that he is in a critical but stable condition in that hospital. As I reported earlier on the programme, a suspect was taken away for questioning by police, who have now concluded that even though the suspect had claimed at the scene to have shot Charlie Kirk, he was not involved in what I think we can already conclude was an assassination attempt against this extremely prominent figure within Donald Trump's Make America Great Again movement. So that means, given that we've got no other information about anyone else having been arrested in connection with this crime or detained for questioning, that the suspect must still be at large. A massive police and FBI investigation now getting underway. President Donald Trump leading calls for Americans to pray for Charlie Kirk, a great guy from top to bottom. The president said over his Truth Social account, God bless him. We've heard similar messages from across the Republican spectrum, but also from many prominent Democrats who have taken to their social media accounts to say that there is no place for political violence here in the United States, a country that has seen far too much of that, including, of course, the assassination attempts against President Trump while he was on the campaign trail only last year. So the disposition as things currently stand is that Charlie Kirk is in stable but critical condition in hospital after undergoing emergency surgery, that there is presumably still some kind of a manhunt underway for whoever carried out this attempted assassination of Mr. Kirk, and the political class across the board here reeling from an event that is taking place in an extremely polarized, extremely febrile United States. And what has happened today is an attack now being seen on television and on social media against a real icon of the American right. Charlie Kirk, whose Turning Point USA organization has absolutely mobilized hundreds of thousands of young Americans on behalf of President Trump and his Make America Great Again movement. Absolutely one of the most prominent national figures in that Make America Great Again movement. He's just 31 years old. He's married, I believe, with two young children. And this, I think, is a seismic event in terms of obviously political violence, but in terms of the politics of a very polarized America, as we wait to see in the hours ahead where this story is going to lead.
Simon, do you mind if I just change the subject a bit? We're talking about what happened in Poland last night. What has Donald Trump actually said about this? Because I haven't seen... I mean, I'm just wondering when the scales will fall from his eyes on what Vladimir Putin's priorities are.
Yeah, well, the only thing that Donald Trump has said so far is a single message that he published on social media 5 hours ago, many hours after Americans awoke to learn of those drone strikes, those drone incursions, rather, into Polish territory by those 19 Russian drones. And he simply wrote on his Truth Social account, "What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Question mark. Here we go! Exclamation mark." Now, I've no idea what that means. What's with it? Well, that's a good question that everyone is obviously still trying to answer. Was it an intentional move by Vladimir Putin to probe what kind of response he would get from NATO to an incursion into NATO airspace? And when Donald Trump says, "Here we go," what exactly does that mean? Where do we go? Does it mean that President Trump is finally perhaps going to make good on his numerous threats to impose additional sanctions and punishing measures against Russia and the countries that purchase its oil? He's reneged on all of those threats this year up until now. What exactly does it indicate is very unclear. We've heard nothing from Secretary of State Rubio, nor from Pete Hegseth, the man, of course, that we must now call the Secretary of War here in the United States following the renaming of the Department of Defense. But evidently there are questions here because while Trump's ambassador to NATO has insisted that there is no daylight between the United States and its NATO partners, and the US will help NATO in defending every inch of territory that is NATO's in Europe, there are, of course, big questions about just how muscular President Trump's response to this kind of an incursion may prove to be. So lots of questions for the administration, very few answers and very few adjectives being used, Ian, by American officials. While everyone else is talking about, you know, Russia's flagrant actions and their violation of Polish sovereignty, nothing like that coming out of American officials whatsoever. Neither Donald Trump nor Matt Whitaker, the US ambassador to NATO. Pretty anodyne responses as we wait to see exactly what direction of travel they're going to take with regard, as ever, to Vladimir Putin.
See, that's what I love about you, Simon. I throw you a curveball, which you weren't expecting, and you give me a 3-minute monologue, which is far more eloquent than I could ever do. That's why we love you. Thank you very much indeed.